The city. It is this sprawling, massive place, miles and miles across. Been here as long as anyone can remember. Nobles play their power games, guilds maneuver for money and influence. Dark things emerge from the shadows to hunt, and the lamplighters take everything in while keeping the darkness at bay. The thing I always wonder is why? Why do these lamplighters keep the darkness back? What investment do they have in Avalon? Streets of Avalon, an urban RPG setting by Brett Blazinski for the world's most popular role-playing game. Ask for it at your friendly local game store or head over to gamingandbs.com/streets. Gaming NBS, episode 339, being recorded Monday, April 26th, 2021. Welcome to Gaming NBS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, folks. Glad everybody's around. How you doing, man?
I'm fine, Brett. How are you?
Not too bad. Had some pretty good gaming this last weekend. We had Call of Cthulhu, Horror on the Orient Express.
Ooh, just kicking it off? Oh no, that was
no.
Lenny's
We're well into Lenny's game there. We have encountered the Blood Red Fez, which is, of all the bizarre Cthulhu entity inhabiting somethings, I've never had to fight a hat before. We have now fought the Blood Red Fez twice. I've been damn near bested 2 times by a hat. That is a new one on me. But it's been fun no matter what. and then wrapped up my Access Mundi World of Darkness game, which was basically a huge homage callback to every game I've ever run for the group for over the last 30 years. A lot of work on my part, and everyone had a blast. But we wrapped it up, so that was cool.
Sounds daunting, like a daunting.
It was the weirdest thing I've ever tried to do and pull off, and everybody had a lot of fun, so it worked. And then yesterday I ran my first edition Forgotten Realms game for AJ and Alana that we were going to play on Sunday, but my middle daughter Rhiannon was up to visit for a bit, and so she hung out for a little while, and then she stayed longer than anticipated. And then we're like, well, let's play, we were going to play Saturday, excuse me. Then we moved it to Sunday. So we played last night instead. It was fun. AJ's one character's fighter has swore an oath, kind of on a whim, to get past some undead at some point. And his sister, Ilana, her magic user is not stopping letting him off. She won't let him off the hook. Anytime he does something, she's like, logic? You want to use logic now? The guy who pledged his soul to the undead without understanding a word he said. So it's been fun. And tomorrow will be AJ's, what the fuck? Midgard game. There we go. I was going to say Midderlands, but it's Midgard. The 5e Midgard game will be tomorrow. AJ's running, so that'll be fun. How about you, man? What'd you do?
Played in Delta Green, and
you still back in the still? I thought you were gonna.
I think the next one's gonna wrap it up, and then Jimmy has said I am running the next run, and he's gonna use the published scenario.
Nice.
I said, which one? And I think he was, I don't remember if he actually knows at this point, but I just said, I just want to make sure that you're not running something I've read, or, I'm not going to read something. So I do have the campaign, the one campaign that they put out.
I'll tell you, man, sometimes it is tough to say how many more sessions you got left. And then, it'll all wrap up next time. Because all it takes is 2 of us gamer idiots to taken over a bit of attention towards the tapestries, and we don't. The game lasts 3 more weeks. What the fuck? Yeah, that happens.
Impossible
all
landscapes.
the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks,
Okay. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Anything
and then Thursday is going to be Forbidden Lands, and then Saturday is going to be Star Wars. So good. Yeah, good times. Fun.
Very good. Very, very good. Yep. That'll be fun.
Yep. But I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I don't have anything crazy. GameholeCon.com. Gamehole's coming. That's in October. And if Sean and I remember correctly, the registration or at least game submission stuff opens up in May, which, good God, May is next week. as if we're recording this on the 26th, Jesus, of April 2021. So yeah, next week is May already. So check out your GameholeCon.com and get all the details on when and where to put up your game ideas and such.
If I do go and I do run games, it's going to be Feng Shui and
really
maybe Mothership.
You gotta warn everybody ahead of time that you've never run Feng Shui until that game.
I'll try to run it beforehand. It might be weird online.
So you're gonna warn everybody that you've never run that game?
Yeah, it'll be fun. Andy in my Star Wars game, he's like, I think they've played Feng Shui, the first one, and they said they had a blast. That's great. And then
very cool.
That he said he said he would place it in a mall, in a sporting goods store.
Sporting goods store.
He goes, then you got golf clubs, you got, you could have guns, you could have...
Do Mall of America with the big Lego thing, and...
I don't know. A mall would be kind of cool. Like, you're in a freaking shopping mall going apeshit through...
Especially because most shopping malls in America are dead, and there's nothing in them anymore.
Yeah,
so.
That's true. But just all the props, like throwing soccer balls at bad guys and trying to knock them down. And
very cool.
The ball bin opens up, and yeah, it make good fun.
Fun.
Yeah.
Sweet. Let's random encounter, man.
It's all right. Let's do that.
Let's just move on. Let's do that.
Do random encounter. Segment of the show where you feel voicemails, comments from social media and the like.
You can start. I'll let you go first.
Bill D on the game group. I don't mind online play, but GMing is a little more different. So far, I have done Discord audio and Roll20 virtual tabletop for maps and images. I miss being able to just quickly sketch out a map for an encounter where I could quickly pivot on a plot point. I now have to be prepared to show alternative images when in the past, I would just draw on the paper. I also miss rolling behind the screen and asking for their awareness just to mess with their heads.
So what's your perception check? Hang on a second. What's your bonus there? Oh, okay, yeah. No, you don't notice anything.
You could still do that.
What'd you roll?
You could still do that.
You totally still do that. Yeah,
you can even, Bill, you could get whiteboard stuff.
I'll tell you what, man. Whiteboarding on a virtual whiteboard, depending how good you are with a mouse and so forth, is sometimes you feel like an idiot because you try to draw something and it's not even like, okay, I won't draw a circle, I'll draw an oval, and it looks like an eggplant, mating with a spider. You're like, what happened?
I wonder how that would work with an I have an iPad too with a pencil. I wonder how
probably be easier.
I could share that. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Excuse me. But I know that not everybody is super. I run into this at work, man. Network architects and stuff trying to draw stuff with a mouse on a virtual whiteboard. They suck at it. Takes time. They practice with it. But eventually my team's getting better at it, but it's not something that's natural to us.
Yeah.
Interesting, though. Good stuff, Bill D. Thanks for writing in, man.
Yeah, Bill.
I have noticed that a lot of people with Roll20, like I use Roll20 for maps and images and die rolling. Everything else, all communication is through Discord, Zoom, something else. So I have not used Roll20's native communication tools.
No.
Other than the chats and stuff, but I don't know anybody. Somebody out there's going to say, me, you dumb shit, Brett, I'm totally doing that. But I don't know anybody who uses it.
The video and audio of Roll20
is terrible.
Sucks.
Yeah, so unless video and audio have improved drastically for Roll20, and I'm just not aware of it, but I don't know anybody who uses it. Interesting. All right. Where are we at? Beer Leaguer comments on the game group. Moving on here. I have young boys, and all my gaming friends are in the same boat with young kids. That's impacted much of my group's energy and availability. And after a year of virtual work, there's just no appetite to tack on more hours in front of a computer, staring at my own dumb, tired face during a virtual game night. I hear you. I can see that. But here's a positive angle. My boys are age 7 and 11, have formed their own regular game groups. At first, my wife and I discouraged so much screen time, but as isolation wore on, we found our boys' gaming pods to be healthy alternatives to in-person socialization they were each missing. My 11-year-old has especially benefited from the competition, conversation, education that comes with being part of a game group. He and his friends are each making plans to assemble their own gaming PCs, a dialogue and vocation that never would have happened without the Fellowship of Gaming. My wife and I are thrilled he's taken a shine to a thoughtful innovation. As for a 7-year-old, his vocabulary and reading skills have each improved, in large part because he need to keep up with his big brother and his friends. All this to say, there's something so undeniably healthy about the common bonds we share through gaming, whether we're 7 or 97. And yeah, Beer Leaguer, I actually have to agree with you. I think there's gaming online is fun and so forth, but there's nothing beats, for me anyway, in-person gaming. That's my favorite. The bells and whistles, some of the cool shit that we've talked about that you can do in your online game. Oh, look, I can Fog of War, True Fog of War, and this and this and this. When I am in person, gaming like with my kids or whatever, nobody misses the fact that they don't have that technology in front of them. The people I'm playing with anyway are just as happy to have it be like, oh yeah, there's a limitation here in this physical world, and that's totally fine. We accept that. Move on. That's part of the attraction almost. I think it's pretty cool. Anything for you, man?
No, but I'm probably more okay with online gaming than I ever have been.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like no big deal anymore. I mean, Foundry's super smooth, and even if I didn't want to use it and just use Theater of the Mind, video and voice, totally fine with it.
I'll tell you, there are definitely benefits to it. There's a lot of really cool stuff to it. I would say I have a preference, but I enjoy both. So if I sounded as if I did not like one, that's not true. I like them both. If I had my druthers, I would rather do in person. But I also know that one of the reasons I can game every week is because of online gaming.
Yeah.
I mean, my friends and I, we all work. And at some point, well, Nick's retired Army, so he doesn't work per se, which we give him a little bit of shit for. But anyway, the rest of us at a certain point, it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. We've all wrapped up the day. We can get online for 3, maybe 4 hours if we stretch it, and we can play together without having to pack up, drive over somewhere else, and make it happen. I know that's first world problems, right? How hard is it to drive 15 minutes or half hour or whatever it is to get to someone's house?
That's more. I have grown more to hate driving.
People suck when they're on the road, man.
Totally.
But I'll tell you, it's faster to say, okay, I'm here, I'm ready to game. Let's game. Cool. Yeah. We're done. Moving on. And I log off and I go right to bed if that's my thing. Or I want a snack. I go get one. Hang on. Be right back. Gotta go to the bathroom. Whatever.
I gotta say,
definite. If I didn't have online gaming, I wouldn't be playing every week.
I gotta say, I don't. At this computer that I'm recording all this on is I don't use it for work. I have a whole nother room that I go to do work. So that's the biggest difference where people are like, oh, so I'm at work 8 hours in front of this one desk in my house, and then I'm done with work, and now I'm going to play online for another 4 hours at the same desk, at the same computer, which I can understand.
I pivot to my left to this work, to this computer for work.
Still, that's
pivot
good.
over here for this one. As corny as that is, I'm within like a yard. The work laptop and monitor is within a yard of my Mac, but it's still a difference.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at that. This is the screen where the fun happens, right? This is where my friends and I get together online. We map shit out and roll dice and have fun.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. I have figured out, as I'm working from home permanently now, I've figured out different ways. Like, hey, look, it's lunch. I get up and leave my office. Right. I no longer make myself available the full 8 to 10 hours, like nonstop. Nope. I'm on lunch. Close the laptop lid, walk out, have lunch in the living room, have lunch somewhere else, watch TV, do something different for the half hour, whatever. And that helps. But anyway, I honestly, if I didn't have online gaming, I wouldn't be gaming as often as I am. Just a fact.
Right.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. It's come a long way, even from shit, man. Well, when we started this whole thing 6 years ago, we're like, yeah, Roll20, Fantasy Grounds. I didn't know of anything else.
Right.
People were using
shit
Skype,
has
Google,
blown up like on the
there's
virtual
like
tabletop.
Skype gaming, Google Hangouts, and then it has literally, it's blown up. It is just, I was going to say literally double, but it's way past that. It's quintupled or whatever. Excuse me, in size and capacity.
Yeah.
Pretty cool shit. All right. I think that's all we had, man. Short write-in week.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the main topic.
Let's move on.
All right. I'm scared,
Ready?
Brett.
You should be.
Really
You
scared.
should be scared.
I'm scared.
So Matt V asked us about horror games, specifically how to make a horror genre entertaining to game in. Just so to recap, he had said, I have never run a true horror game, largely because I failed to see how to make it entertaining. I ran Pathfinder's Carrion Crown, but I really don't consider that in the quote-unquote horror genre. I've read Call of Cthulhu 7th edition and New World of Darkness, both which I like mechanically, but just can't see how to bring it to the table. I get the whole take away their stuff aspect and explore and research aspects, and I do that in my games regularly, but it doesn't seem like enough to build an entire game around. And my experiences as a player in horror have always been very dull. I played in a few very short campaigns and some one-shots, but never found it entertaining. So there are challenges with this, and Sean went out and basically we wanted to take it easy tonight. So Sean went out and went through the Gaming BS community. So we're going to sit back and listen to their wisdom, and then we'll hang it up early. No, I'm kidding. Sean posted a nice little poll, kind of pinged the whole BSers to get some insight into this stuff here. And I think before we get into it, one of the key pieces that Matt V's talking about here is entertaining, right? And Matt's not here having a beer with us or a whiskey and saying, hey, what do you mean by entertaining? What's entertaining to you, Matt? So that's kind of part of the nebulousness of, what's fun and so on and so forth. But there are pieces and parts to any genre, right? Whether it's a horror game, a World War II spy game like, Cold Shadows, there's a vampire game, whatever it is, whatever genre you're in, there are challenges to it. And horror seems to, Sean, I talked about this off the mics, and horror seems to be one of those genres that gets people sideways. Like, should the players be physically scared? Should I rely on mechanics to scare people? Are they supposed to be scared, or how's that work? So Sean, why don't you tell me some of the wisdom that we gain from the masses?
So one of the things that I posed was like, what's the hangups on top of
Yep.
Matt's stuff is, because then we can address some of that stuff.
Yep.
Or somebody says, this is how I deal with it. We could share that. So Craig, yeah, go ahead, Brett.
No, I was going to say, I can share one that a mutual friend of ours, Austin. We both gamed with Austin. Yeah. Austin has said out loud to me and others that he was not fond of horror as a overall genre because in many cases he sees it as an agency limiter. And if it's not done right, I'm paraphrasing Austin, but he has seen it done in his experience wrong so many times where he feels like it just erases so much agency, and he feels very railroaded towards how I feel, how my character must act, react, and so forth. He's explained that. I'm like, dude, that is a shitty horror game. He goes, I know it's a shitty horror game, but if it hadn't happened. So that is one. It didn't make it in here because that's an older statement from Austin, but that's a hang up.
Sure.
Kind of in that vein. So I will shut up now, Sean. We'll let you do your thing.
So Craig mentioned controlling tension, maintaining it, and knowing when to break it. Joe Swick, what Craig said. Another thing that's tough.
This is brilliant, Joe. Love it, Joe. That's beautiful. Beautiful, man. Oh, he's got more. He's got more. Read on.
Another thing that's tough is setting the exact setting and degree of horror, maintaining the image that you want to convey.
True.
George, adjusting the story or game expectations when players are so afraid to lose characters that they turtle. Played and ran several Call of Cthulhu games in which players were simply too precious with character mortality to really investigate. Also, dealing with the one player, always one, who is just 5% too silly for the game. Forrest, maintaining the mystery, giving too much away will cheapen the experience for everyone. Some questions should be left intentionally unanswered. This is how you create unease. Our friend Cthulhu chimes in. For me, the challenge of bringing in fresh takes on the tropes so that it never feels too formulaic for folks at the table.
Very true. Very true, Kevin.
And then Miniature Master lastly says, I think horror is all about creating expectation by building tension or by building expectation through a sense of familiarity. You're building the story through a particular lens that leads to an unexpected outcome. Each type of horror treats it differently, but they all have that one moment where all the horror begins and then you're on an emotional roller coaster ride until the horror ends. Having that emotional tie-in, I think, is probably the most important part of horror, because it's not horrible if you don't feel any emotion when the horror appears and bad things start happening.
Those are all really good, man.
They are good.
Excuse me. Very good stuff.
You sound so quiet, Brett.
Do I? I thought it was nice and close there. Is this better?
Yep, it is much better.
Okay, there it is.
Yeah.
Sorry. Thought it was nice and
You
close.
seem to be talking really nice.
Okay. This is good stuff. And I think the tension is a tough one because, so let's just talk about tension. A lot of times you'll hear in a horror movie or any movie in general, if you watch a movie with no soundtrack, it's really weird, right?
It is weird, yeah.
However, I've heard it said that, man, horror movies have these wonderful soundtracks, blah, blah, blah. I challenge you, if you've not seen it, to watch the movie I Am Legend, the recent one with Will Smith. There is no soundtrack in that movie. It's creepy. It is fucking creepy. It's done on purpose because it's just him and his dog and the things, right? But there's plenty of fucking tension in that movie and weirdness and shit you're scared of or nervous about and so forth. And there is no soundtrack. Okay. So it's not needed. But if you have not seen it, even if you're like, well, I wasn't scared by it, that's not the point. It's not the point to be scared. It's the tension pieces of it. And I think the tension piece that Craig brings up, and of course, as Joe said, what Craig said, tension is tough. It is really hard to keep people on the edge of something. And I think before we go too far, Sean, one of the things we should mention is a lot of horror is about having to solve something that your character sheet doesn't have an answer to in raw gaming mechanics. This is the thing I believe. I was thinking about this before the show. If everything, one of the reasons that horror can be hard to do in D&D, let's say pick on 5e because it's the big gorilla, right? So your character is really powerful. Some would say super powerful, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. You've got a character sheet with powers and things and spells and shit you can do to fuck up that otherworldly horror. Undead fighting, things that try to rip your brains out, are shit you fight on a regular basis in 5e or in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons in general. It's tough to make that stuff tense and so on unless the answers are not on your character sheet. So when you're looking at your character sheet, even a good Call of Cthulhu adventure, you look at it like, okay, well, I'll try to spot some hidden. I'll try to do this. The mythos in Cthulhu is basically unknowable and ununderstandable. It is an insane, weird, chaotic thing. The horror movies and TV shows, or the tense ones, the thrillers, a lot of those things, if you think about them from a character sheet perspective, the actors, the main antagonists, the guy, the gal who's the cop, they know the rules. They know what they're supposed to do because that's what their character sheet says. But this serial killer, you can't beat him with his character sheet. You can't beat him or her or them, the cult. You can't take them down if all you do is play by the rules. Well, they're on your character sheet, you can't do it. And shit gets tense when failure happens sometimes. So that's it insofar as like you're trying your character sheet, you're trying it, and you realize that's not enough. I've got to think, how can I get creative with my character? And it can be tough, in my opinion, because then people have to sort out, well, is this Sean playing or is Sean playing his character? The differences between the lines get a little blurry, in my opinion, in a good horror game. But part of that is because your character then is thinking out, you're trying to act as character, describe and maneuver as character without using the character sheet as the be all and end all of this is all I can do. I can only spot hidden, library roll, and talk to strangers. That's all I've got. No, it's not. What else do you want to do? What do you want to try to do? Right? Does that make any sense to you, Sean?
It does.
Am I blowing your mind there, Sean? Big reveal for you?
I think that's an angle that I might not have considered like in my face at all times. But
I'm not saying it's the only way,
right?
But it's a tool.
Well, attention's an interesting one, and I think more. So this maybe isn't really horror as much as suspense, which is I think leads to the horror component piece. Is the tension, suspense, horror kind of trifecta.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's a couple things that play with a horror game, I think. We've touched on horror before, but how do we like make this, how do we get people to go, oh, I'm going to run a horror game like Matt, and it's going to be the way that he envisions what a horror game should be or entail. And a few of those is like, do you have the right people at the table?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who's the
you're
like George
run,
said, you got that who's just 5% too silly, a little bit too much.
You know, there's a comment on our mothership game, our actual play with Jim and the gang and Jared and Jeff Goad and everybody, Dirtless. Yep. And one of the things that the guy mentioned was that it was just another, you know, Reddit frat boy bro haha like game. Nobody took it like, oh, it's mothership. This guy wants to watch the Alien movie, and he gets what to him, you know, the Three Stooges. I don't think it's that bad, but whatever. But the point of it is, you know, if you don't have people that are bought into that genre or game, or even just like, you know, D&D with like Brett said, the powers. And if it's going to be, well, I want to be able to go in there and kick ass,
it's not going to work. And that goes right to Miniature Master. It's creating the expectation, right? Like, look, it's difficult to build tension, difficult to mess with your character's perceptions. It's difficult to, how do I say this? Sometimes in horror, it's unexplainable.
Well, yeah.
You know, why does Jason Voorhees act the way Jason Voorhees does?
Right.
There's myth and rumor, and you get pieces and parts over God knows how many fucking movies. But it's still like there's something that drives him. What is the core of it? It's just weird. You can think you understand all you want, but no one's been able to kill him yet. You know, so clearly it hasn't been cracked.
You run a D&D game, and how many people have pummeled demons and devils? And you run an Exorcist game, and people or watch an Exorcist movie, and people freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so weird. I don't, you know, because we're all used to going into 5e and kicking ass, taking names, and chewing fucking bubblegum, man.
In fantasy games in general, dude, quite frankly,
True.
a lot of it, you know, first edition D&D, Savage Worlds. I mean, it's fast, furious, and fun.
Right.
You fight dragons, you're not terrified of unless there's a terrified roll. You know, there's a stat that says roll this or you're fucking terrified, right?
Right.
I think mechanics can take us a distance here. A sanity mechanic, which we've talked about in the past, or roll for terror, or roll for fear, or you're tracking this stuff in a Jenga tower because to see how the group is doing. That is very helpful because those are good mile markers for how to role play appropriately what's going on with you. Because it's very difficult. Unless you're in a really fucked up game where you're actually physically losing your own sanity while this goes, you're stretching it, trying to figure out what do I do when I go crazy? What do I do when this happens? When I walk in the room and I see this horrible sight, I see the woman who is supposed to be my mother, you know, explode in a shower of maggots, and this horrendous bug-like thing erupts out of what's left of her and attacks my partner. How would you react to that? You know, do you pass out? Do you go catatonic? Do you go crazy? Do you go and, you know, kill yourself? Do you attack the monster and just run away shrieking and let the demon buggy thing eat your partner? Who knows?
Eat your partner now, do-si-do.
But I think the creating expectations from the beginning is kind of like what you were trying to do with the Ravenloft stuff. And it's like, look, guys, here's the deal. Guys, gals, and people playing with me. This is a horror game, so on and so forth. There's going to be some mystery, some stuff we necessarily can't necessarily explain easily. Might be a little bit difficult to understand. If you want and expect people to solve things that are not on their character sheet, like, look, think outside the box, come up with stuff you want to do. Tell me what it is you're trying to do, and I'll tell you if you need to make a roll or whatever it is. Those expectations are huge, because if you cross any expectations, it can be too bad. Too bad to recover from, I should say. And so comedy, as George says, the one person who's 5% too silly for the game. There's some funny ass shit in my opinion, in John Carpenter's The Thing. There's some humor in there. They make fun of stuff. They laugh at things. There's some quasi-comical events, like when everybody's tied down and they've got the blood and they're trying to figure out who's what and what's what. It's actually kind of funny in this weird, macabre, really? Really? However, it's horror. It's funny in the moment, in the world, in the scenario. No one's hitting anyone in the face with a cream pie, as Matt Colville talked about. So they're setting this expectation, like, look, some shit's funny, or it might be like, oh my god, it's like it's a monster made out of suction cups and toilet plungers. And somebody's like, yes, it's the toilet plunger monster. Ha 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 ha. Everyone has a giggle at how it's doing what it's doing. But at the end of the day, the quote unquote toilet plunger monster is still ripping people's, chests open, eating their hearts, and then birthing more demons. So it's still not good. It has this comical, like, oh my God, it's like X, but the results of X are still this horrible thing. And the other piece, I think, from a tension perspective, is to really the players and you as a game master trying to enforce the fact that it's your characters see this. You as a player may not feel tense, and that's okay, right? Sean's playing Delta Green. Sean didn't go, oh my God, woo, I was exhausted. I was on the edge of my seat. I didn't know if I would, that's not, maybe you were, but I think the tension, the holding it and so forth is, it's incumbent on the players to remember, see it through your character's eyes. Would your character be tense right now when you just saw your dead partner snap to, moan, and drag their half-corpse body, entrails dangling behind, down the docks and plop into the ocean? That's tense. You make a, oh, wow, that's fucked up. Your character, on the other hand, this is why you roll sanity or whatever, but your character should then, you could say, wow, that's fucked up. I don't know what Bobby here would do, but I think he might run away. I think he might freak out right now. That's okay. And I think that's totally acceptable, because what you're trying to do is, the character is tense. You don't personally have to be. And it can be a bridge too far, perhaps, for me to expect the players to be scared, tense, nervous, blah, 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 because not all players are. Not all players want to have that personal, emotional impact. That could be an X card option right there. Some people don't mind it because it's my character feels this way. I don't want to feel that way. Is that fair, Sean?
Yeah. I was pulling up Impossible Landscapes because I saw something that they wrote in there that was pretty interesting, that I thought would be pretty apropos for this episode. So it's a King in Yellow type of campaign setting for Delta Green. And one of the things in surreal horror, there's a subsection of surreal horror, and it says defining the indefinable. And it says, quoting right out of the book here, surreal horror is inexplicable, personal, and unexpected. It makes terrifying the mundane world that ought to be a source of comfort. It implicates things the agents believe about themselves. So few examples. It's horrific to see a dead friend shamble back to life.
Yes.
Surreal horror is when that dead friend sits down to lunch and everyone acts as if everything is fine.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, did the world go crazy or did I just lose it right now? What's the dealio?
It's horrific to see a creature well up from a bottomless pit of space-time. It's surreal horror when that creature has the face of your mother at the end of its tentacles.
Yes.
It's horrific to be shot. It's surreal horror when you realize that despite the pain of the wound, you're not bleeding, and red tissue paper rolls out like some stage show version of blood.
Yes, breaking the so it's expectation breaking violation, right? Again, towards the character and their experiences. The expectation is, hey, I have a character sheet. This should solve my problems because I'm an investigator, so on and so forth. You go in there, and if you're not somebody who enjoys like children in peril type of thing, or if demonic children, this could be a bit much for some folks. But you go in there and you see the murder, you're like, oh my god, there's the kid, everything's fine. Like, okay, fine. You see the child, like, okay, oh, Brett, it's blowing up Brett's games. I bet the baby murdered the family. Oh my god, that's crazy. And they come to find out it's not the baby, it's their stuffed doll. Okay, that's expectation twisting on top of expectation twisting type of thing. Like, wow, it wasn't that. It was the Winnie the Pooh doll that they have that is the bizarre manifestation a la Chucky and murders people, or is the physical manifestation of the King of Yellow or Nyarlathotep or whatever.
It's horrific.
So, yeah.
It's horrific when an unnatural tome reveals the secrets of the universe. It's surreal horror when that book, written in 1611, contains a description of you down to the smallest detail, including the fact that you're reading that book right now.
Oh, that's actually comes directly out of a who wrote that? It was a Clark Ashton Smith short story. I have it, but it's a Clark Ashton Smith story where this guy's reading a book, and it turns out that it's actually him, and he's transposing bodies over space and time. It's really kind of fun. Yeah, totally. And I think the other piece here, when we talk about expectation, is that your expectation as to a horror game is that what type of horror are you running? Because horror in general is a very broad statement. Surreal horror, as Sean just pointed out. There's slasher type of horror, your Freddy movie, your Jason movies, basically somebody's being butchered, Scream or whatever. There's just a thing, a monster, a deal. It's just slaughtering the fuck out of people. There's supernatural horror, right? There's body horror. There's emotional horror. I mean, there's just, you pile it out there, look at all the different types and pieces within the genre, are many sub-genres to deal with. And I think one of the components that makes for a more compelling horror game is when you find one version of horror and you stick with it. That can help, because even if that is nihilistic, pure Cthulhuid horror, where the universe is an unforgiving, does not give two fucks about you, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're all going to die anyway. Okay, that's fine. But you got to stick with that. If you stick with the fact that it is impossible to understand this and it all is madness, you can't have something that's understandable be a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Is that there has to be for us to enjoy it and for it to be entertaining, there has to be almost a self-contained, this is how it works. And even if how it works is nothing works, as goofy as that sounds. You follow me, Sean?
Yeah.
Because I think if you try to cram supernatural horror plus body horror plus slasher horror on top, it becomes this mishmash of. So it's a haunted house plus supernatural horror plus Colorado Space too? Huh. That's almost too much. At least that's how I
putting it on too thick. I think you have to be careful not to overdo it, because then it becomes kind of cliche. And but with Matt and his, one of the things that made it interesting with his comment, which is my experience as a player in horror has been very dull, and he never found it entertaining. And then he gets the explore and research aspect, but he doesn't see like an entire game around it. And I think with like you could buy Masks of Nyarlathotep, you can get Mountains of Madness, Cthulhu scenarios that you can read.
Delta Green stuff,
Delta
shorter,
Green stuff,
shorter,
yeah.
shorter stuff.
Delta Green is interesting. Well, even Call of Cthulhu is that it's not every turn is going to have suspense and horror. It's kind of like, all right, what's the preface of the game and the scenario and the setup? And Session Zero is huge on this, especially if you're going to do one of these games with folks that aren't familiar with the genre, and you want to make sure you reiterate that stuff. Otherwise, they're going to be in the wrong game. But going into like running Masks, it's kind of borderline Indiana Jones. Like you're going, painting the red line, going one country and one continent to the next. Murder on the or horror on the Orient Express. And so,
but depending how you're running, it's not necessarily pulp.
No, true. It's not pulp. I would say it's globally spanning.
Yep, it's big,
and it's a mystery piece, and I think you got to buy into that thing. Like in Delta Green, you got to kind of buy into the fact that you're an agent of Delta Green, and that the whole premise is you've seen the horrors, you know what it can do, and you're going to do whatever it takes to keep it from humanity, and that is kind of the thing. So when you go into a mission, you're like, why am I here? That's your whole motivation. And so unraveling that and then realizing like, oh shit, I'm in a house that's got some creepy shit going on. Then it's up to the game master handler to implement why it becomes creepy, right?
And sometimes things become creepy and there's tension and the mystery remains and it's something you want to solve is because it's not explained for you right off.
Right.
There's something left. When someone looks at you and goes, oh my God, was that my mom? Was that really my mother that just dissolved into a pool of acid and flowed through the floorboards?
Right.
The game master should say,
I don't know.
Was it?
Yeah, who knows?
Was that really? When's the last time you talked to your mom? That's shit I would say.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's not that I'm amazing at this, but I'd be like, when's the last time you talked to your mom?
Maybe you should call her.
Is it something your mother would normally do? Maybe you should call your mom. Well, God, you fucking bastard, Brad. Is that my mom or not? Dude, you can't ask her. It's gone. Okay. I don't answer that. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. No matter, and especially the wilder and crazier the question, I'm definitely not going to tell you yes or no.
It's not a clarifying question. It's not like,
Nope.
Hey, tell me how far away that is again, Brett. Otherwise, it's in game as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. And it's similar in that mystery then is like, okay, if that wasn't my mother, how did it know what my mother looks like, acts like, or why does it know that I like raisin cookies? That, and the other component to this, I think, as a good done game master with this stuff, the good game masters I've worked with is there's a clue, there's a piece. And sometimes those clues and pieces, they don't get you anywhere.
Right.
Because it is horror, and that's fine. But you're finding stuff. And the game master needs to, there's a weird balance, we've talked about this before, needs to let you kind of run around with the fact that I found 5 squares of red cloth that clearly is a clue. And it's not, or it is, but you have to have something to work from. Sometimes if it's in a D&D, in a traditional fantasy game, let's just pick on D&D, any edition, you go in, there's a necromancer in the caves. You go into the caves, you start slaughtering undead because the necromancer's calling them forth. You have to stop this. How is he calling them forth? What exact spell is he using? What powerful artifact? Blah, blah. Unless it's part of the MacGuffin at the tail end or something you happen to find out, no one gives 2 shits. The necromancer's going to have undead in front of him. We got to deal with this. Move on. It doesn't matter. In a horror game with the tension and the mystery aspect of it, is the mystery has to keep going on. You have to want to know how the hell did this demon get summoned here? There's no demon summoning books. I don't know why it's here. Does this have anything to do with that artifact that guy had, that statue? I don't know. Does that have to do with the statue? Again, the game master can't answer the question for you, which can be very frustrating for players. And I don't know, Matt's not here to talk to directly, but I could see that being, if that's done poorly, it can be very frustrating. because the players are sitting there banging their heads collectively against a brick wall. And they look at you and go, fucking Brett, is this it or not? I don't know. Is it?
Right.
Okay. The better answer is, look, your characters have this all together. Your characters have pieces together. From your character's perspective, you think it might be the answer, but you've also seen enough things to tell you that you could be wrong yet too. There's a nagging doubt in your mind. Your character would have that nagging doubt. Okay, I gave them something, but it isn't an absolute affirmative. This spell will send the demon back. You're pretty sure it will. It did come out of the Sumerian text that said send demons back, 2.0. You've never cast it before. You barely read Sumerian. And the guy who told you to look for it was a little crazy.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Huh. But it's the only chance we've got. It may well be the only chance you've got. Those wordings, it may well be the only chance you have. And helping the players understand what their characters would perceive and think and feel, and not telling them what they feel, but helping them. I could see, Sean, your character not understanding why everything looks like it's this, or I could see your character blah blah blah. It's up to you, man, but I'm just telling you from where I've sit as game master, I could see, you can have that fourth wall breaking kind of thing to help people along. But for me, keeping the mystery alive, and even when you as game master know they've got it just dead on, they've got the fucking answer. They got the book, they got the black tallow candle, they got the everything they need to do, and they can send that demon screaming back to hell. You don't tell them.
They don't know. They don't know.
They don't know.
They don't know. They don't know if it worked or not.
They don't know if it worked or not. Or they have to really be like, you know what? This is the only chance we've got.
Right.
And they try it, and they send it screaming out of the room, and I think it's gone. Does it come back? It's really quiet. What are you going to do? How are you going to test that it's gone or not? So I think it's, and Forrest talks about this too, is maintain the mystery, giving too much away. It does cheapen the experience if you answer all the questions. Fresh takes on tropes, as Kevin mentions, is something I worry about when I'm dealing with experienced gamers and myself, because I don't want to be bored with it. I think if you're new into horror, you can lean into some of the tropes. And honestly, leaning into the tropes sometimes, I believe Kevin would back me on this, can be helpful to get the ball rolling. Right? Werewolves, full moon, silver. You can lean into that. Who the werewolf is, a la Silver Bullet, that might be the challenge. Silver Bullet, Stephen King story. And a kind of a funky movie. Not very good, but still fun. Anyway, point is, the other problem I see here, and George brought it up, when characters turtle in horror games, when they don't know something. I think our earlier comments around helping the players understand that you're not going to get any more sitting here. Hey, Scooby Gang, this mystery ain't going to solve itself.
Right.
That demon's not going to get sent back. If you don't believe me, did you check the news lately? Because 5 more children were murdered. Hey, did you check this one? 16 more dogs were killed. Hey, did you see that one? 5 more homeless bodies. Or whatever is going on. Possession. Whatever. It doesn't always have to be death. Horror can just be scary stuff. Right? Death is just an easy one to lean into. But characters can turtle. And one of the things is, like, you know enough that you should be able to solve this. If you act, it's not going to solve itself unless you do something. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah. For sure.
So,
like, I wasn't a big horror guy, and I still don't think I am. I still don't think I am. Like, I'm not reading horror books. I haven't read Lovecraft, and I'm not Stephen King. My wife's a big Stephen King fan, and she probably would jam on some of the nuances of role-playing games, because I think I haven't read I don't know if I've read any Stephen King, but I think I've heard he's a good storyteller, maybe not the greatest writer, but some of the stuff that he would create in an RPG, obviously you're not going to be just normal townspeople in a village in Maine, but I think how some of the things that come to fruition in a Stephen King novel, we're watching Mr. Mercedes right now. I haven't read the books, and you know, Tam's talking about, oh, they didn't do that in the book. Oh, they did that in the book. But you could see, you know, and if you haven't watched Mr. Mercedes, it's a cop. I don't know if this is real spoilers, but, you know, a guy runs over a bunch of people in a car in a Mercedes. And so they never catch him. And then it kind of goes into something crazy from there. But the cop is always like, the cop is retired and super, like the person who did it starts poking at the cop. It says, hey, I'm still around, buddy. I'm not gone.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then the cop has his own personal thing. And then you got the homicidal murderer that's doing their wacky stuff. And, you know, he becomes obsessed with, they become obsessed with each other almost. But that's, you know, some of the story is going to be kind of boring. Like, I'm hanging around my house, you know, I get a message on your computer. Well, you start turning that into something, and then you start unraveling the clues. So I think
I have freaked out players before when you're at home, like, okay, yeah, fine. What do you do? All right, I'm going to get up. I got to get to the office. Doorbell rings. Okay, what's that? There's a FedEx package. You open up, there's a human finger in it. Like,
right.
What the fuck?
Right.
Really? From Amazon? It says Amazon outside? Yes, an Amazon box. It came from Amazon, apparently. Are you fucking kidding me? Is there a bill of lading? Anything?
Right.
Nope. Just says, great. You know, I love what you're doing there. One thing that I think that you have done, Sean, that I did not do, and I kind of had to figure it out, was because you read and use published modules, adventures, I think many of the newer ones, some of the older Cthulhu stuff is probably very, very good. I've not read a ton of them without being hey, I've been running games for 20, 30 years, right? So I've got a different lens when I read stuff. The Delta Green stuff, the new stuff, is very well written by all accounts. Mm-hmm. The new Call of Cthulhu stuff, very well written, very well put together. What you have explained to me about Mothership is tight and simple as that game is. The hints, the clues, the things in the adventures, really well done, and give you, as the game master, ideas of how to implement and so forth. I think, frankly, if I was going to say the best advice I could give somebody would be to say, look, go buy Mothership, buy the free pre-gen, you know, downloadable version of the Delta Green con game. I think you can get it for nothing from drive-thru or whatever. Grab one of those. Get a starter kit for Call of Cthulhu, the granddaddy, right? Or if you don't like that, find Mothership or something along those lines. Buy it, read it, and play the published adventure. I think it would be very helpful, because there's going to be stuff in there that you're like, oh, wow, I guess I missed that piece. Oh boy, it sure didn't seem very tense. Sean and I have talked about this before, folks, and that you got to think backwards a little bit and say, wow, that didn't seem really tense. What could have I done to ratchet up the tension? You ask your players, what could I have done? Or when you're noodling on it, you're thinking about it, you think, man, you know what I could have done? What would have been really fun would have been some random noises on the spaceship, just some like knocking, like someone's actually knocking on the glass. Like there's a tunk, 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 a hand knocking on glass. Boy, I bet that would freak people out. They never see the hand, but always precedes the monster. Huh, neat. That would scare people because they get used to a sound, and X number of minutes after the sound, something horrible happens. If you always hear a tap, 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 and then within an hour, someone dies, tap, 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 suddenly becomes pretty fucking terrifying. Because, okay, there were 20 of us on the ship. It's down to 5 player characters, and we just heard the tap, tap, tap sound. The fuck is going on?
The smell.
But honestly,
like a smell.
The smells.
All of a sudden you smell this. And then every time something bad happens, they smell the smell. Like,
you smell turpentine? Is that like
and
turpentine?
You know, and the first time is like, huh, that's weird. And then every time you smell it, you know, shit's going to hit the fan. Blake brings up Twilight Zone and that there's some nonviolent horror in that. but it's and a lot of creepiness. And that's an old show, and people love that show and watching it because it's almost timeless because it's so wacky. There was one I started watching. I had no idea what it was. A guy was just literally woke up somewhere, and he was going through an entire village, and he was the only guy in the entire village.
Yeah, there was one where
what's up with that? It's not horror. It's like, but it's a WTF. Like, is he gonna run into anybody? He just keeps wandering around. Like there's nobody moving. There's nobody here. What the hell?
It's isolation, but it's isolation horror,
right?
Which is another type of horror,
for sure.
Yeah, go look up what are people scared of.
Right.
Type that into Google and terrify the shit out of people with it. Right. Another good game is Esoterrorists. Esoterrorists has some monsters in them. The Book of Unremitting Horror has some crazy, fucked up, horrible monsters in it. Quite frankly, if you are squeamish, I would not read that book. It's got some bad, absolutely. I mean, I've read some of those things. Well, wow, that's pretty gross. That's over the top. That's a lot.
I also think
use that.
I also
like, that's not as. I'm going to use that.
Yeah,
but I also not for certain players that I don't know and I don't know well. But anyway, point is there's Esoterrorist Gumshoe plays very well. Fear Itself, another Gumshoe game, which is horror, terror right there. And that's a different version of it too. When you play Fear Itself or Esoterrorist, you're just a dude. Delta Green, Call of Cthulhu, you're just a dude. You are not a D&D superhero. You're not a DC Marvel comic superhero fighting demons or horror or whatever it is. It's not. You're a normal person dealing with problems. And yes, you can. And I have had people. I've run horror-y type of stuff in Avalon, but that's a very gritty, down and dirty D&D type of game, and it fits in that genre. And I also, if you played it with me or read the book, it doesn't have a lot of high-powered play to it, right? And one of the reasons is because certain things are more scary, a little more worrisome, and so forth. Anyway, Sean, I cut you off there. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say that I think one of the things too with game mastering, and this is something I got to work on too, is when I run a horror or suspense game, you got to really be conscious of your style. And I'm talking, okay, when it's mundane and everything is kind of average and nothing new is happening, and you want to instill that kind of status quo, then maybe you run it just like you would a regular scenario in a different game. Like, you're just kind of matter-of-factly putting it out there. Or you could change that up. But when you do get into the tense pieces, your tone becomes more serious. It's more deliberate. There's a cadence to it. Like, there's a different method of presenting the material verbally. I mean, even looking at somebody video-wise, if you're playing online or at a table, that can instill a certain suspense or a certain thing. One of the things I want to do, Brett, I don't know if it's really on the to-do list or for episodes, is how do you become a better player? And one of them is mirroring. I don't think players mirror a lot of the game masters as much. Like, and I mean, and mirroring is just a conversation, communication type of thing.
If I'm intense, you're intense type of thing.
Yeah. So when you say, I can't remember where it stemmed from originally in my brain or my career, but when you get in, it's like going into an interview and you get Brett, who seems he's the hiring manager, he's a little more jovial, right?
Yep.
You can read his body language, you can read his facial expression, you can understand how he conveys things, and maybe starts the thing off with a little bit of a joke and tries to make it, bring some
lighten the mood. Yeah,
lighten the mood.
Levity, a little bit of levity. Yep.
Yeah. And if you're buttoned up all the time, well, you're going to be a little off. So you kind of get, oh, okay, this guy's a little relaxed than I anticipate. Okay, cool. Sure. And then that's how you kind of mirror each other. Oh, but when you're serious, or it's like, hey, I'm not talking to my mom and dad, I'm talking to my friends, or I'm talking with, I'm in a court of law and I'm testifying.
Different thing.
There's different faces that you put on and versus different personalities that you bring about. And as a player, if you're in a horror game, the best thing you could do, one of the better things you could do method-wise, is mirror the game master and kind of sink into that and take it all in. Versus like, because the opposite would be, oh, the GM is getting super serious, and I've got Toon and Scooby Doo running through my brain.
Yeah, there's a point. So if I am okay, you're searching through the bushes to see where the bad guy may have left the house. Yeah, I'm kind of poking around, looking around. Okay, yeah, you're looking through the bushes. Yep, I'm just kind of poking around, going with my groove there. So when Sean's like, yeah, I'm just looking, kind of prodding around a little bit. And I said, what are you using? Like, you using your foot? Yeah, I kind of kick stuff. And well, there's a stick there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I use the stick and kind of prod around a little bit. Then I say, well, that's good, because when that stick hits the bear trap, it goes snap and crushes that stick. You realize it could have been your leg.
Right.
I didn't change my tone until I said snap. You go, what?
Right.
That's shock and horror. A fucking bear trap? Are you kidding? Like, for bears? Yeah, for bears. That would have taken you off of the knee. Holy. Okay, I look around. Yeah, there's more. Okay, can I go back the way I came? Yes, Sean, you can. I back out real easy, and I call and I get on the radio. Okay, if you're like, okay, cool, you're in, and I love that idea, Sean, because if you're grooving with me, like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Right. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Yeah, the bear trap snaps. The monkey screams at you. The pterodactyl comes shrieking. There's a fucking pterodactyl. I'm in downtown Los Angeles. Yeah, the pterodactyl screams. What the? When I drop the holy fuck moment on you, or like, oh my God, the shattering, the scary, the tension, interest in that interjecting thing, you're in this groove of, yeah, it's normal, man. It's normal. Just poking around. Yeah, I gotta check his ID. Okay, flip it over. You obviously, that's your brother. Wait, what? I can't see the guy's face because it was chewed off, but you're telling me this is my brother? Yeah. You're just checking his ID. It's what you do. And you see your brother's face there. What?
Right. I look at him. I look at the guy.
What? I look at the guy. His face was chewed off. You can't really tell, but it does have a gold earring like your brother.
His face is chewed off, and he's got a gold earring like your brother.
Fuck? What?
Right.
Again, if you're mirroring, if you're doing that type of thing, and you're in the groove with me, if you're explaining, and instead of going, oh boy, that's my mom. Wouldn't that be funny if it was my mom? And you're constantly joking.
Right.
If you're constantly like, yeah, well, okay, sure, yeah, I'll just roll some dice. Can I check? Yeah. Well, what do I have to roll to search the bushes? What do I have to roll to do this? If you mechanic the fuck out of everything, this is just Brett's opinion, you can kind of clash with the tone and the tension. Wait for the cues. And I think if you, again, from an expectation perspective, as a game master and as players, you can set an expectation like, look, let's narrate a lot of this stuff. Let's just talk. When the moment comes, I'll tell you to give me a spot hidden. Or if you're like, man, I really can't. Jesus, I feel like I'm missing something. Can I make a roll here? That's good. Don't just sit there rolling your D20 or your percentiles or your pile of D6s and tell me what you got. I look around the room. I Greyhawk it. Click. I got 15. Don't do that to me. Let's get in the mode. Let's talk about it. Let's kind of work our way through it. And if your players are in that groove, I think you're going to have a lot. I have more luck jacking up tension, dropping tension. There's a horrible, god-awful scream, and you turn, it's a cat. Oh, Jesus, okay. It's just a cat. It's just a cat. Okay, a regular cat? Yeah, just a little tabby runs through. You think somebody might have stepped out. Okay, it's a cat. Whew, all right, just a cat. You know what? I'm going to go check where the cat came from, just in case.
Right.
It turns out to be nothing.
Right.
But it doesn't matter. You're still nervous. And you check, and it does turn out to be nothing. Deep breath. Move on to the next room, or whatever the case is. So, anyway, anything else, man?
No, I like this topic. I mean, it could go. I could talk for a while on it.
I think it's really hard to go through and say, "Hey, Matt, I can." This is going to sound arrogant. I can fix your game, Matt, if only by doing these 5 specific steps to make your horror more effective. I have a very hard time with that because I don't know what Matt is running into. Right. I know I played many games with Cthulhu. And when he says that, I absolutely freaking buy when he says about, hey, bring the challenge of bringing fresh takes to tropes. Totally makes sense. Not only for your own boredom, but for your players. You want to make things different, new, and so on. I don't know if that's Matt's problem, right? Because if Matt and his crew are playing and it's so trope heavy, like, look, I know who did it. I know what did it. It's a deep one. I can fucking see it coming a mile off. That's not fun either, right? But like a lot of different things Sean and I talk about, I think it's not like your game is broken, needs fixing, or that we can fix it in 4 easy steps. Some of the stuff is just thoughts and getting your head into how do I convey the expectations and get people to play along, especially with this one. Yeah. For my money, getting people to play along with horror is tough.
You gotta, and I think this, when I've talked about opt-in games and other than pushing the game or trying to bring them in, you got a D&D group, great. Let me rephrase that. You have a group that's always playing a game that is not horror.
or a type of game. It's
right.
Whatever it is.
And it's not
playing
horror.
Sci-fi, playing Traveler, having a good time.
Right.
Yep.
And now you want to say, hey, I want to do horror. You guys, I'm going to try that. I don't know. Just come on. Maybe they'll grok it. Maybe you got the group that's like, yep, sure, sounds good. And then they get all into it and it's all fine. But if you put it out and you get 3 of those or 2 people from that group that are like, oh, I've been wanting to play Mothership. I've been wanting to play Alien. I've been wanting to play Call of Cthulhu or Delta Green. I want to experience something different than what we've been playing. And then you put that out to other people and say, hey, this is what I'm pitching. It's this kind of game, blah, 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 blah. Looking for a little more serious action. I'm like, levity at the right moments is okay. It's like that weird horror movie where a guy, has a weird quip before he gets an axe through the skull. That's okay. But it's not Laurel and Hardy hour for 3 hours when it gets kind of uncomfortable. And,
yep.
and if the people are like, okay, man, I get it, I'm in, then you're going to have a pretty good game. But if you get the people that are like, I don't know, then they're not going to be bought in my opinion.
Quite honestly, I think, Sean, you've said this before, and I absolutely agree with you. If I say, hey, I'm going to run a Dungeon Crawl Classics game, explain what it's about, and somebody's like, I don't know, racist class, sounds a little Gonzo and the Magic, I guess I could try it. That gamer's not going to have a lot of fun.
Unless they're very, very surprised.
Yes.
Because it's a game they've never played before, and then they end up loving it. So it's a weird crapshoot. But that's the whole jam with this shit in RPGs. It's people Craig, I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna be freaking this weird awkward goofball at the table that doesn't jive with the rest of the players, and you're like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. Chemistry. It's all weird chemistry.
Well, Craig offered to play Run Blades in the Dark for you and I.
Yes.
And I grabbed, we said, hey, we're going to pull Frank House in. Eric knows that game system in and out. Sean, I've never played it and have never read the book. Hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give it a good college try. I want to try it. I've joked with Craig because of my past rants and raves, but I have never played it. So I don't fucking know.
Right.
But I'm willing to try it. Let's get in there, man. What's the game about? We're going to sit down. He's already talked about some stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm getting it. I get the groove. I get what this is going to be about. I'm in. Let's play.
Right.
But it was opt-in. He said, hey, I want to do this. Do you guys want to play? We both said, yes, we want to play.
Sure, yeah.
If neither one of us want to play, we'd have told Craig, nah, not interested. Because life's too short to play games I don't want to play, right?
Hey, Brett,
so
Monster Hearts. Brett, I've offered to run Brett through Monster Hearts. See, I don't.
Not interested.
He doesn't want to play my Monster Hearts game.
Nope, I do not. I don't like playing with Sean's game master. It's terrible. Anyway, it's the expectation thing I think is big. Is whenever you're changing genres, you're doing something different that either you as game master haven't done before or your players haven't done before or both, right? If you're well known for being the happy-go-lucky, anything goes Savage Worlds person, and you say, hey, I want to run a Call of Cthulhu game, there's a potential drastic shift
change
in your
gears,
tone,
man,
and how you're changing gears and what it is you're doing. And you're all in for that. You've read, you've listened, you've talked to lots of people, you're ready to go and do something different. It's important for you to set those expectations. Say, look, this is not the happy-go-lucky, pulp two-fisted, Savage Worlds game I've been running, which has been a lot of fun, no doubt, but I really want to change it up and do this thing. And it can be very easy to shift back to what you're comfortable doing, which is one of the reasons why I think a pre-published adventure, there I go again, using the horrible phrase. The published adventures can be very helpful in this because they help to enforce a tone because it's right there in front of you. This, however sandboxy or railroady it is, it has all this great data in it for you to constantly remind yourself, don't be the happy-go-lucky guy. It's not two-fisted pulp. It's not four-color superheroes, Brett. Remember that? Right. Hey, we're not Omni-Man. No, not that guy. We're over here now. And that can be very helpful. And I think that's a piece that I learned the hard way because I prefer to roll my own, like at all times for whatever reason. That's just a thing, a muscle I developed. But because, Sean, you read more of those things and you run them, I think it gives you an advantage on learning the new genre in a way. I think it can be very helpful when you're looking at something you've never done before. You know what I'm going to do? Let's try this. So
creepy is something we didn't really cover either. And creepy, I would say, is more along the lines of Silence of the Lambs. It's not. I don't know if it's horror. Right? I wouldn't probably put it right in the horror bucket. But Hannibal Lecter, he's a creepy
motherfucker.
A creepy dude. Like, hey, tell me, Clarice, did you hear the lambs crying when you were a child?
And then when he gets out, he calls you and then hangs up.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
He's got the mask all the time. I mean, he does a couple things to the cops that are the security guards. And then eats one of their tongues. Like, it's the reports. Yeah. Right? You don't even witness what he did. They talk about, like, this is why this guy's in prison. He's a nut job because the last time he ate the guy's tongue out of his mouth.
Yeah, and then you have to talk to him because he's got the answers you need. Then you get the answers like, boy, these answers sound like gold. And then the game master goes, remember. And the game master uses the other cop to say, remember, that crazy motherfucker ate a whole family.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, stay away from the glass. You got to be 6 feet from the glass.
Yeah. Why? Because he eats people. He can get through the glass. Stay away from the glass. Right. I don't answer that. Can he get through there? All I say is stay away from the glass.
You're told to stay away from the glass.
Yeah, but can he get through? I'm telling you what the rules are. Stay away from the glass. That's creepy shit, man. And I think if you can, I know some people, myself included, I'm not huge on certain horror movies. I'm just not. I don't like jump scares a whole hell of a lot. No. That irritate the crap out of me. Insofar as that I react poorly when scared. When someone goes boo to me, I react poorly. I have hit people. I don't go. I don't go well. It doesn't work well with me. And
that's Brett's defense mechanism to prevent him from screaming in a very high pitched.
Exactly. And if I hit you, you can't hear.
Brett's kind of sounds like that.
You can't hear me shriek like a stomped cat. Right. If I lash out and slap you.
Right.
But there's a number of these things, again, trope-wise, as Kevin mentions, the other piece you can do is lean into the tropes in the right places. If you get over-tropey, that can be a bit much. But you want to add creepy. Hannibal Lecter's creepy. Who else is creepy?
Shit.
Just go through the movies, somebody who's creepy. And creepy is not... Sometimes people associate creepy with weird stalker, sexual, assaulty creepy.
Right.
And that's not what we're talking about here. Now, again...
Hanks from The Practice. I don't know if anybody watched that. It was a David E. Kelly television series. And I think he was the guy that was on Lost. I can't remember the actor's name. And I think he's on the not the Blacklist, the video camera show that's on recently. But he doesn't blink. Like the actor never blinks when he talks. So he's like talking like this, never really blinks when he talks to anybody.
Watch the old... What was I going to say? Other creepy stuff
Jack
is
from
like
The Shining. He's creepy.
Jack from The Shining. Oh, very, very creepy. The X-Files stuff, Millennium, those old shows, even Twin Peaks. There's some creepy, weird things. People with bizarre habits are creepy. This person can't talk to you without eating toothpicks. They literally chew them up and eat them.
Ask a
They
woman.
have a little bot.
Ask a woman if you have a hard time with creepy, because they will find
Oh, yes.
a lot of guys
Because
creepy.
unfortunately, there's
It's true.
yeah, unfortunate. It's very unfortunate.
It is
but
unfortunate
definitely
for
true.
sure. But, my wife's like, that guy's creepy. Like, and I'll be like, why?
When he-
well, I don't know. He just
If you walk
creepy.
down the street and you see somebody acting creepy, you're like, huh, that's weird. Wonder if I took that up to 11 and gave him a cat.
Yeah.
And stuck him as like the guy at the haberdashery who's going to talk to the investigators.
No, dude.
So
Better yet, a guy rolling a stroller, and in the stroller is like something creepy, like a doll.
Yeah,
like an old beat up doll with like missing eye.
yeah, it's a beat up doll, missing eye, and has 1 foot.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
And he doesn't like to explain it.
Nope.
Don't ask him about the doll because he gets upset.
Yeah. Get like
What?
erratic, like erratically irrational, and
Yeah, like rude, twitchy. Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, you can that piece of it. The fun part with those is that you take those tropey things, the creepy factors of it. It can lead to some comedical pieces, which can be very actually relaxing. And I think a lot of people would tell you, and I've heard this is why I'm saying it from a number of different sources, that humor can drop the tension. The cat that got stepped on. Sorry, Governor, it was just a cat. Oh, Jesus Christ. Scared the hell out of me, man. Oh, it's some weird guy, and he acts really weird. He's creepy, but kind of creepy, weird, funny. Okay. Odd. Moving on. You can still question that person's data. The crazy cat lady, sorta. Crazy cat lady, total tropey. But guess what? She's a witness to the thing. You got to go talk to her. Yes, it's a quote unquote funny interview because she's always trying to get you to pet her cat. Here, this is Stella. Don't you like Stella? Here, Stella. Now, look at Moonchild. Don't you like Moonchild? And they're always like foisting cats in your face. It's annoying. It's kind of funny, but the topic is still heavy. So this weird quasi-funny tropey thing is happening, and the creep factor becomes you have to get the crazy cat lady to explain to you what they saw. And as they're explaining to you that they saw somebody chew the face and eyeball off of the police officer last night under the street lamp outside her house, she's also trying to foist these cats on you.
Oh,
so
I
you
would
can
do
pet
the
them.
opposite. I would make her serious as all get up when she's stating.
You could absolutely do that
those
too.
things.
Yeah, she could be like, "Oh, here's my cats," and she
Right.
stops and like,
right.
yeah,
Offer
that's creepy,
rocker, except for the details that she's conveying to you.
too. Yeah, and she looks you dead in the face and says, "That man jumped that cop,
Yeah.
tore his nose right off, ate it in front of him, and then gouged out his eye with his thumb. Then he slurped it down." Want to see my cat?
Right, there you go.
What? What the fuck was that? That's weird.
It's Mr. Spanky.
Why? Yeah, okay. Here's nice, Mr. Spanky. Some of this stuff, I honestly, it kind of goes back to the practice discussion. Is you've got to try it. You've got to try different pieces and parts. It's some of what we're talking about. It's not advanced game mastering, but it's just experienced. You're doing something. You're trying it. You have to be comfortable trying this stuff. And that's where some of those published adventures can be very helpful, because your better ones will give you clues, advice. Hey, here'd be a good time to try this, or hey, try this thing. Or if you're running an adventure, a published adventure, you can go anywhere on the interwebs practically and say, hey, who has run this and what did you do to help? There's plenty of people out there, gamers overall. There's some bad apples, of course, but overall, in a lot of different forums and places, people say, hey, I have run, They Only Die at Twilight, and I love that adventure, and here's what I did to really add it up, because, as much as I love that adventure, it really wasn't tense enough for me. So I use these tools. Or fine. There's people out there who have helped you solve that, and it's easier to get help on published adventures sometimes because they're going to have some key things for you. Those 5 steps to help make that adventure a little bit better. That's easier to convey than it is horror game in general. So, all right, man, I'm out of ideas. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
Any tips, tricks that you find that really kind of hits home with the people that you run horror for? Let us know. If it's slowing down the cadence, dimming down the lights, being a little more serious.
Yep. And Matt, let us know if we totally missed the mark on this, or if you've got more data, man. If you've got like, hey, I had this specific experience, or this was an issue we had, or anything you'd like to share, you obviously don't have to, dude. But if you've got something you want to throw it out there to add more color to it, lay it on us, man. We'll see what we can do.
Let's get into die
Sweet.
roll.
Die roll.
Die roll 2 to 4 miscellaneous points, gaming and geekery you want to bring and share with you. First one tonight, Above VTT. Above Virtual Tabletop is a free Chrome extension that allows full use of D&D Beyond. So literally, if you're just playing like D&D 5e and you want to just don't want to get a full-fledged VTT, I think it allows you to bring in like roles. Maybe there's a chat. I don't remember. I haven't looked at it yet. But it's not, it's free. As long as you have D&D Beyond, it plugs into that and probably brings in some references from that.
Yeah, no sign up, no fees, just your D&D Beyond account free, and you're ready to go. With your Beyond character sheet, one-click maps, one-click tokens, an easy fog of war, and more. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of slick sounding.
Yeah.
Neat.
Last one, Wayne, our very own Wayne Peacock, I think he just bolted out of the chat room, launches Old Scroll #1 zine.
Oh, cool.
It is on itch.io for like $4.99.
Yep, $4.99.
So check that out. Tell them Gaming
There
MBS sent you.
Very cool.
Otherwise, that's it for this week. What are we talking about next week, Brett?
Next week, we're talking about saying no. We talk a lot about saying yes and so forth, but sometimes saying no can be very powerful and could be the right answer, potentially. So we're going to talk about that. We'll see how it goes.
No.
Damn it. I thought we could try.
Nah.
Never mind. All right, something else we'll talk about. Anyway, that's the plan.
Alrighty then. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you did tune in live, we much appreciate it. We stream here Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time, Brett and I, and talk about something. And then if you see this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. Otherwise, you can find us on your favorite podcatcher of choice and subscribe there. Otherwise, thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. I'm
Absolutely.
Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game.
This episode of Gaming and BS produced with help from the following BSers: Chuck, Bob Fletcher, Roger French, Kevin Keneally, Tindrils, Stefan Dragonspawn, Mike Coleman, Miniature Master, Wayne Peacock, Chris Shorb, Michael O'Holland, Orcus Dorcas, Todd Sharp, Craig Shipman, Quigley Malcolm, Cole Kago, AWOL Trooper, Isaiah Aries Christian, Larry Hollis, The Duke in Purple, Jay Plata, Dollar Adventure Frameworks, Phil McClory, Aaron Coleman, Eric Frankhouse Presents, Ed Nyes, Daniel Garrett, Adam Grochon, George Sedgwick, Ghost GM, Jim Ingram, Rory Weston, Mike Hess Jr., Eric Tavola, Henry Newcomb, Hoos Carl, Melissa Bashinsky, Harrigan, Brian Rumble, Eric Avia, David F. Baylog, Christopher Lang, Michael Dinos, Jeff Goad, Corey Gonzalez, Mark Richmond, Niall Diamond, John Kayward, Perry Besor, Eric Jeppesen, Angus, Brian Kurtz, Robert Nemeth, Eric Salzwedel, Laramie Wall, Andy Hall, Howard Bishop, Craig, Ray Otis, Old Scoozer Role Playing, Ron Bishop, Larry Hout, Jared Rasher, Rich Wishawn, Chad Glayman, Jim Fitzpatrick, C.W. Mellencamp, Roger Braslett, Dan LaValle, Sky, Pure Mongrel, Jeff Cipher, Jason Hobbs, Craig Huber, Andy Olson, Corey Welch, Mark Tasaka, Chris Steele, Joshua Wallace, Brandon Barnes, Eileen Barnes, Old School DM, Mirko Froelich, Aaron Ralia, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Curtis Takahashi, and Joe Swick. Hey, you interested in playing games with other individuals? Maybe trying a new game? Head over to gamingnbs.com/games. It'll take you to a forum post and it'll give you more information there. Then you can sign up to run a game or participate in one. Check it out. Seriously, no, really. I'll wait. Come on, there's a link at the bottom of the show notes. gamingandbs.com/games. Yep, that's it. Yeah, what do you think? Cool, huh? All right. Well, hope to maybe play with you. All right. Otherwise, keep on gaming.
This has been a Litterbox Studio production.